Hello, welcome once again to Read All Over YouTube. If you've not seen this before, I'm Graham Mack. I'm a mate of John Pearman, who is the editor of this publication, Read All Over the Land, the longest lasting and the only Liverpool Football Club fanzine there is anymore. John, welcome to the latest episode. We've got some great guests coming up, haven't we?
We certainly have. It's a memorable night, thinking back, first of all, to 77 and then to 2005. Yeah, you know, the good thing was, of course, on Sunday we did actually finish third, which almost was a miracle in itself if you think back 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've had the miracle of Istanbul and we had the miracle of Alisson scoring a goal. So, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, but this
So
date in
everything's fine at the
particular,
moment.
this date in particular is important, isn't it? 25th of May.
Yeah, the 25th of May, the day we won the date of the first European Cup win in Rome, and we've got people on the show tonight who were actually there. And then, of course, in 2005, another legendary occasion for many different reasons. But it's not the games that we're thinking about. Of course, it's the fans and the people that were there and what was going on. It was quite amazing.
And the
Quite
stories,
amazing.
which is something that
And
the
the
fanzine's
stories,
great
yeah,
at.
we've got. I think we've got some good stories coming up. Yeah, very good.
We have, and our special guest is Dave Kirby, and it's because of Dave that you and I met each other over 20 years ago, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. And
Yeah.
we've got a cracking video to show. If you haven't, a lot of people have seen this, but it's worth seeing again if you haven't. And if you've never seen it, I think you're going to love it. It's some of Dave Kirby's work, and it'll give you an idea of what he's up to. And how is the fanzine going, John?
Well, the one that we brought out at the weekend was the final one of the season. I hope next season we'll be selling it again at Anfield. On Sunday, I did go over. I didn't go into the game. I hadn't got a ticket. But whilst I was there, I bumped into a person that we had on our last show, Cheeky Jurgen.
Yeah.
Him and his agent, the darling Patsy, they were both there, stood outside the Cop. Quite a crowd was attracted to their presence, because to say he looks like Jurgen was a bit of a seeing him was a shock. I believe he actually confused security, because they said good morning to him, thinking it was Jurgen.
Yeah. Didn't they let him in? Didn't they let him in somewhere as well, John?
I believe they let him in the ground. Yeah, but he did actually say, no, I'm not actually the real Jurgen. But the funniest part was when we walked up to Anfield Road, and that was when it felt like a real match day. You had to understand the situation around the stadium was totally different. But on Anfield Road, he was mobbed. And as the team coach approached, somebody gave him a flare, and he stood there and held the flare aloft. And I don't think I'll forget the look on the driver's face, because he had to look twice. He looked at Jurgen, then Jurgen, and then the other Jurgen to make sure he's still on the bus. But yeah, so that was good. That was good fun.
And there is somebody's actually done a video of that on YouTube. If you check that out, you can see Cheeky Jurgen holding the flare as the bus goes by. You can't unfortunately see the bus driver's face in the shot there, but yeah. And there's a picture.
No, that's because the flare was going off, and it was amusing. But there were people who live in the houses close to the ground, and they actually invited him in. So yeah, he ended up going to the Sandon to watch the game,
right?
Which possibly fitting because of the birthplace of the club.
Yeah,
and I believe he was well received in there. I do understand he had a drink.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic.
And talking of you hanging out with legends, you met someone pretty special on Monday as well, didn't you?
Well, it's pretty well known. I was invited to go over to the Shankly Hotel to there's doing a bit of a promotional video for an organisation called FansBet, which is supporting charity such as the Florrie that we're supporting, and their ambassador was going to be there, and they said to me, would you like to come and have a chat to him, sit down, do a film with him? I said okay, and I have to say that Kenny was quite happy about it. He didn't look too overawed in my presence.
So Kenny Dalglish got to meet John Pearman.
That's correct. Yeah, not the other way around. Yeah, yeah.
And
I think.
And what was the chat like? What did you talk about?
Well, basically, it's the reaction of fans in the stadium, what they mean, because we've had all these empty grounds now for too long, 15 months, whatever it is. But he was there, and I spoke about the 1965 Cup final, and also the night against Barcelona. And other little bits. It was really good, and he understands fully, as he would do, just the importance of football supporters, real football supporters, going into stadiums and how they can contribute to a game.
Did you get
influence a game even?
Did you get any idea from Kenny whether he'd have anything to do with the fanzine in the future?
I sort of dropped a couple of hints, but whether that'll happen, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's Kenny Dalglish. Yeah. King Kenny. Yeah. Oh, he's also got a knighthood, but we don't worry about that one.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We may have him on a future episode of this if you.
We could do. You never know, do you?
Okay.
I've put my toe in the water anyway to see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay. And we need to talk about Ben Nevis as well, John.
Yes, there's a group of football supporters. I believe the people from Manchester, Everton fans, and of course Liverpool fans are all going to go up to Ben Nevis on June the 11th. And the idea is to stop off on the way at Glenbook and pay their own tribute to Shanks. And then they're going to go up to Ben Nevis and walk up Ben Nevis. And the idea is to raise money for something that's been in the news quite a lot of late, mental health awareness, and also for the 96 to keep their things in focus about them. Because as we know now, the family support group has disbanded. But they've still got to be kept in the public eye. So they're going to do that, and I'm going to ask them, when they get up the top there, to leave a copy of Red All Over the Land in a suitable place, and also do a little film shot of themselves.
Great.
So and we can put that on the club website or email it to everybody.
Yeah, and we might be able to show it on our next episode as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, well, talking of showing clips on our next episode, before we bring Dave Kirby in, if you haven't seen this yet, this will give you an idea. This is something that Dave wrote and put together, and it's a bit special.
Today's full of mixed emotions. I'm drifting back in time. I was born the year that Shankly arrived, back in 1959. Since then, life's been good to me. The glory and riches I've seen. Kings of Europe, Wembley, league titles. Now today, it's number 19. Anfield was bouncing in the 60s. I was just a kid back then. My dad used to take me every week and put me in the old boys' pen. Shankly, the Cop, Mersey beat. What a time to be alive. Our first FA Cup and those incredible scenes at the homecoming in '65. My dad put me onto his shoulders. I remember the words he said. These memories last forever, son. Be proud that you're alright. After Shanks came Paisley. What a journey, what a ride. Rome, Paris, glory, joy, with my aunt fella by my side. The trophies just kept on coming. League titles with 10 a penny. When Dalglish won number 18, we named our new son Kenny.
My dad was always telling me about the things he'd done, all the cups, the homecomings and the titles that we won. He said, I've got to keep the faith and that my time will come. And then at last I got a taste in 2001. The homecoming was amazing, noise, colour, sound. My dad put me on his shoulders. I didn't want to come down. He told me about 1965 and the words my granddad said. These memories last forever, son. Be proud that you're a Red.
Ever since my lad could walk, I've told him all the stories of all my great adventures and European Cup glory. Then finally in Istanbul, I grabbed him and held him tight and said, now you know how it feels, lad. At last, you know what it's like. He'd only just turned 15 back then, but life felt really sweet. We just needed to win the league to make me life complete.
I must admit until this year, I thought that I was cursed. My dad's seen 13 titles, but this will be my first. We came really close a few times, but we never reached the top. Until our prayers were answered in the form of Jürgen Klopp.
And so now, after 30 years, the title is finally ours. I'm thinking back to 65 and that homecoming with me dad. I'm just so glad I got the chance to share this with my son. At last he's seen us win the league before my days are done. And as my grandson comes of age, we'll teach him the Liverpool way, respecting Reds who've gone before, whose spirits are with us today. In future years, he'll think back and remember what we've said. These memories last forever, son.
Be proud that you're a Red.
Just brilliant, just brilliant. So let's bring him in now. Dave Kirby, welcome to Red All Over YouTube.
All right, guys. Yeah, great to be here. Fantastic.
Can we talk about that first then now, because people may have just been watching it for the first time. Can you tell us about how it all came together?
Yeah, it was last summer. We obviously we're in lockdown, and we were thinking of once we won the title, but we all sort of knew we'd won it, but we still weren't sure, So we said, how can we celebrate it, if it's in lockdown? So we were thinking about ways to do it, and there's a lad, Rob Glover. He does all the events. He's a Scouser, lives over in Boston. Rob, he runs Carragher's Bar in New York City. So we just wanted to do something for Jamie's 23 Foundation. So I just lying in the backyard one day, and I just wrote this verse about 3 generations of Liverpool fans, and thinking back to the past homecomings and what it'd be like seeing the empty streets now, and someone thinking back having these reveries about past homecomings, and it was a labour of love really. But I mean, when I'd written it, I didn't know where we were going to go with it. So when I got in touch with Rob Glover, he was over in Boston at the time, and he said, "Why don't we make a little movie out of it?" So I didn't want to recite it. I wanted it to be performed by actors. So I got obviously Andrew Schofield, the famous Scully.
Yeah.
And he got his lad Bobby, he's a great actor in his own right now. He's in a film with Jude Law at the moment and everything. So he's Bobby Schofield now. So I got the 3 generations of Schofields to help me along. So they recorded it, and we done the voiceover, and everything sort of fell into place. We got the original 1960s scarf off a great red called Lizzie. And if anyone's on Twitter, her feed is at 60s Lizzie. Yeah, she's a great red, and it's an original from. We wanted it original. It had to be an original. Yeah. So and it got fantastic feedback. We put it out on the day. Jamie blasted it out there for us as well, and it's had 7 or 8 million views now. It's had worldwide. So it really touched a lot of people, which was nice, and when it comes from in there, you know what I mean. It was coming from inside of me, and I was thinking of my dad. Obviously, like when I was writing it, I was thinking of my dad, and because I was on my dad's shoulders in that 1965 homecoming. I can just about remember it.
Yeah.
I was only a little kid, and I can remember thinking back. So basically, the kid he's talking about, I mean, the part that Andrew Schofield's playing is basically me, really. It was my memories and stuff. And yeah, it was nice. And when I seen it all come together, we shot it around the city with the lads who actually shot my other 2 movies, the 15 Minutes to Shook the World and the Reds and the Blues. Yeah. And the lads, and the funny part about it, they're all Evertonians, the ones who shot it. So it was absolutely killing them. Do you know what I mean? And I've got a picture because when they get to the house, that's actually my house in the film. When they eventually get to the son's house, and I had the famous Joey banner, which I've got here behind me. Yeah, I had that on display, and I've got a picture of the 2 Evertonians. They had to pin it up for me, and I've took a photograph on the slide, and I was saying I'm going to put it on the Twitter and all that, and they were nearly crying, "Please don't do that! Please don't do that!" So no, it was a great time, and as I say, I'm privileged because speaking of the banner, the Joey banner, which is behind me, by the way, this famous banner. And like when it was in the garden that day, a taxi driver pulled up, and he goes, "Is that the original banner?" And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Oh, can I take me picture?" So he took his picture and that. And the next thing is about 3 or 4 cabs rolled up, and there's all taxis pulling up for about an hour now.
Suddenly you're a tourist attraction.
Yeah, I should have started charging for the key ring.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about the banner and have a better look at it in a minute, but I should just explain, because I mentioned how it was you, although you and I still haven't met, but we did talk this way a couple of weeks ago. It was you, Dave, that brought me and John together. I was going to the match and buying the fanzine, and your poems were in it. This is around 2000, or maybe earlier than that, late 90s, early 2000s. And I ended up working on a radio station doing the breakfast show at Century Radio in the East Midlands, where John lived at the time. John lived in Loughborough. And one of your poems, The Homemade Flag, I read it out on the air one day because it's such a great poem about being a football fan and what it means and that. And your Mrs. John, Mary, was listening to it, and then she got in touch with you, didn't she, straight away?
Yeah, she rang me, said there's somebody on the radio reading something from your fanzine. So I thought, right, what's this? And Mary explained what it was about, what was going on. So I got the number, and I actually got put straight through to Graham. Yeah. And I said, that's from Read All Over the Land. I'm the editor. So things moved on from there, and we ended up having a meeting in the Hard Rock Cafe in Nottingham a few weeks later, where I met Graham and his wife Julie, and from there on we've been best mates since. Yeah,
so thanks for bringing us together, Dave.
No, it's a lovely story, and I didn't know that till the other week when we spoke, and it's sort of I mean, to be honest, I owe a lot to Read All Over the Land myself, because around that time, it was around 2000, Graham. It was about 21 years ago now, and I used to post under an alias called Braces and Boots.
That's right. Yeah,
that's what I was known as, and that was probably because, like, at the time, I was writing poems and that, but from the the streets I'm from, it's not socially acceptable, to do poetry. You know what I mean? So I was writing it under an alias because I was a bit, wary of coming out. But I mean, I used to get them published all the time, just as Braces and Boots. And as it went on, and then I eventually done one called the Justice Spell.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people remember. And after I started doing Hillsborough ones then and stuff. And then
I've read the Justice. I've read the Justice Spell on Radio Merseyside. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, and that's touched a lot of people. So in the end, I just say that I'm coming out the closet sort of thing. So,
but your life's changed. Your life's changed totally, because weren't you in the building game at that time?
Yeah.
And now you've gone pro as a writer.
Yeah. I mean, and as I say, the stepping stone was like the first published stuff I had out there was on Read All Over the Land. So I owe lots to John and the fanzine. It's a really, and it was a great, and especially writing under an alias, I didn't feel, any pressure or stress and that. So it was great to get out there. But yeah, I mean, I went on from there, and by 2005, I mean, me and Nicky wrote Brick Up the Mersey Tunnels, which was a smash hit play. Me and Nicky up, by the way.
Yeah.
And then we did the book, Here We Go Gathering Cups in May. And then since then, I've had like 7 shows on in Liverpool, and 500,000 people have seen the stuff I've done in Liverpool. And then last year I got something on BBC for Jimmy McGovern on the TV. I've written a radio play, and so it's gone on from there. I was always like heading that way, but the very first pieces I ever did, was on Read All Over the Land, which I'm thankful for John and the fanzine for. And
you've also worked with a lot of Liverpool legends on the after dinner circuit, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, when I come out about 2005, I got out there, and after we won in Istanbul, they started doing these special nights at Anfield, with the Istanbul nights, and they were doing one a month at the time. So I mean, when it was funny at the time, because when they announced that there was a poet coming on, you can almost hear the gasp around the room. So I had to like reassure them, you know what I mean? As soon as I got up there, I said, "Listen, boys, this isn't like lonely as a cloud and all that bollocks. No, this is something that's going to connect with you." And then, but once I got going, I had them, and at the end of the night, they were all buzzing off it. So I enjoyed that. We were doing one a month at first. This was in the at Anfield, and then it snowballed that much, and they got that popular. We were doing 4 and 5 a month, and it was amazing. But on the top table, every show was a legend. You know what I mean? So I met a lot of my heroes at that time, and at the time, I'd never really met any footballers before. So that was like, one of the moments where you don't know what to say and all that. But I mean, they're all like mates now and all that. You get to know them and all that, and great stuff. But that sort of put me in the brackets of a poet. So everyone still thinks I'm a poet, but I mean, I was writing drama and all at the time. But the poetry, I mean, remember Jimmy McGovern, the great Liverpool writer? He said to me years ago, he said, we all start off as poets, and it goes from there. You know what I mean? That's how it started for me. So my journey's been like a spiral upward, and yeah, I'm a full-time writing now, professionally. Been doing it like 15 years.
And was it working with Liverpool legends that got you the connections to Stevie G and Cara that appeared in the 15 Minutes That Shook the World?
Yeah. Well, at the time as well. When I was in the building trade, I was in the building trade for 25 years, and part of that I was on Liverpool City Council, which was that's another story. Then I mean, it's some of the laziest, beautiful characters I've ever met, and funny, but hilarious. But one of the lads I worked with was Paul Flanagan. Well, Paul Flanagan was young Flano's uncle, right. So like, and me and Flano, so we decided to get together and make 15 Minutes That Shook the World, because at the time Flano Senior, that is, he had the Cafe Sports Bar in Stanley Street in Liverpool with Jamie. So then they were in business together. So I got to know Jamie through Flano, and then it all snowballed from there. I got to know Stevie and that, and then and they agreed to be in the film as little cameos and stuff. So we had a laugh with that film. I'll be honest with you, we had some fun with that, especially when we were trying to get it past Man United's briefs when they're their lawyers and all that, because they nearly.
Because for anyone who hasn't seen it, or anyone who has seen it, there's a character there that, although it doesn't say it, it's clearly Alec Ferguson. And you were telling me the other week that there was a scene in there that had to be cut because he's in a kilt.
It was hilarious, because in the original one, when Stevie lifts the cup up in Istanbul and all the ticker tape's blowing, in the original film, you see Ferguson lying on the floor crying his eyes out in his office at Old Trafford. And in the original version, we had his kilt pulled up, and he had like so when Ferguson. When Ferguson seen that, he went, "I'm not having that." So we had to come to some compromise because we had to meet their lawyers.
So he's got all sexy underwear on under the kilt, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Suspenders and that, yeah.
But when you see it now, it like fast forwards past that bit. So we have to take that out, you know what I mean? But Gary Neville, he didn't want us to put it out there. They were trying to get an injunction on it, to be honest. And
to stop it altogether?
Because Gary Neville in the film, it's got number 2 on his back, but we don't name him, and it just says we called him Rat Boy. You see, he's named Rat Boy in it, and we had him like this rat that comes out of it, like a lair. We filmed it down by the docks, and he comes out of this lair, and he's cooking mice on sticks and everything. You know, he's like a little. he is basically a rat, and then Ferguson phones him up in the film, and he goes, "Rat Boy, are you watching this?" No, when it's 3-0, so he's going like, "All right, Gaffer," and all that. So we had So we portrayed him as a little rat, and that was because he'd slagged the Scousers in general in his book, you know what I mean? So we thought we'll have a little pop back at him now. Yeah. Because we didn't name him on the shirt, we got away with it, and we called their bluff. We said, listen, how much is it going to cost us to break the injunction? And he gave us a figure, and we said, so that we're going to put it out as we're going to still put it out there and put it out as the film Man United started to ban. So they bottled it out in the end, and it came out for Christmas, and it was only a little 45-minute piece, but it went down a storm, to be honest. We had a laugh, and with Jamie and Gerrard in it, and Diddy and Man, it took it to another level. Great to work with, Stevie, in the outtakes, you see Steve and Gerrard laughing his head off, which you don't often see. He was great. We had a ball filming it.
Oh, it is great. So, and the pub that's full of the Everton pub called the Bitter and Twisted. I mean, just every minute of it is just brilliant. It is just great. And with that and other stuff, you've raised a lot of money for important charities along the way, haven't you?
Yeah, well, funny enough, when I started doing the poems on Read All Over the Land, this is back in 2001 too, I got involved with the Elizabeth Justice campaign, and they used to have benefit nights, and I used to perform at them, and that didn't half help me, you know what I mean? Because they did, as I say, the lads, they accept you once you can connect with people. Any writing, if you can connect with someone and tell them about their life, that's all it's needed. But yeah, we used to raise a lot of money. And me and Nicky brought a book out, Cop Stories, and that raised thousands for the HJC. We used to raise it mainly for the Elizabeth Justice campaign. Yeah. But as I say, that film that we've just done for Jamie last year, the number 19, that raised lots for the 23 Foundation. So yeah, that's a satisfying part of it as well. I mean, you can have a laugh and all, and I earn a decent living and all that writing, but it's always nice to do stuff for charities as well. And there's another one called Zoe's Place Hospice that I've raised money for, and that. So yeah, it's a totally different life now from the building trade. I mean, I was labouring for years. I was on the wagon, and then I was a plasterer for a bit. So that was my basic. But people see you now, and you just think, oh, that's that dickhead who writes poems. You know what I mean? But you don't realise, like I had a life before that. Funny enough, So I've never that being Liverpool that I was on, I got loads of stick on that after doing that. You know what I mean? Because but it was with that. I was they filmed me and they shot me all in one afternoon in the Sandon pub, in the Sandon. So, but what I said in that 3 hours, I was only supposed to be in one episode. Yeah. But what I said in that 3 hours, they phoned me up and said, "Listen, we've seen it. We'd like to use you at the top and tail of each episode." So there was 6 episodes. So that's why I've got the same gear on all the time, because all the lads were saying, you had the same pint, for 6 weeks, you tight bastard and all that. But that didn't, I mean, it was a shit. At the end of the day, that being Liverpool, the way Rodgers was portrayed and all that. But at the end of the day, it was a good payday. Because I said to them, when he said to me, "We're going to use you in one," and he said, "Oh, we're going to use you in 6." I said, "Is that 6 times the fee?" And he went, "Okay, yeah." So I got 6 times the fee.
Brilliant.
So I got loads of stick after that, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because it was that out there. It was nationwide and that. But I've only ever had grief off one fella, and I put him in his place, to be honest, because they don't know who I am. They just think you're a zivvy with, poet and all that. But there's more to me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a couple of books, and you mentioned this one, which is The Gathering Cups in May. And your story at the beginning of this is, I mean, John sent me this book and said, "You've got to read this. This is Dave's story of Rome in 77, which was on this day, the 25th of May in 77. Do you just want to take us through a little bit of that, Dave, because I think we should start before the final, actually. We should talk about the quarter-final against Saint Etienne, you know, the famous David Fairclough goal, and that, which some people regard as still one of the greatest nights at Anfield ever. You were one of the last people to get on the Kop that night, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because in them days, you know, you had to queue up. It was all pay at the turnstiles, and we got down there, lucky enough. We got down there about 4:30 because we thought I was going to be queued. And when we got down there at 4:30, the queue was right down the Camden Road from the Kop, from the corner flag, and down by Priory Road, by the Arkles. And that was just at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So it was horrible because, like, you're thinking, because in them days, when it was full, they used to like a bell used to go off, like a school bell.
Yeah.
And that was like, so anyway, you get near it, and like as we were getting near it, it was bad. It must have been about 7 o'clock by the time we got to by the flagpole from 4:30. So anyway, as you get near it, you could hear and it was going different turnstiles, bells were going off, so you're panicking, you know. Anyway, I was half in a turnstile, and the bell went off. And the fella's trying to shut the door, and I'm like trying to get halfway through it, and I just let out this bad scream, like my leg, and I started crying like going and so this copper dragged me through, but my shoe, he was on the other side of the shut door, so I only had one shoe, and but I didn't care. I got in, and everyone behind me didn't get in. So, but this Al fella, I'll never forget this Al fella. He had an old Liverpool woolen scarf, a bar scarf. And he said, yeah, son, and he gave me it, and I tied this scarf around my foot, and that's what I wore all right through the match. And that. But I mean, that night was something else. I mean, this is the old standing Kop. I mean, obviously, it's been fantastic nights since then. You know, Barcelona last year, and obviously Chelsea and all that, and fantastic. But I think it was because the Kop was standing. There was 25,000 of us on the Kop that night, and the atmosphere, and like you were just. I think I've said in the book, I started off at the back of the middle, sort of like at the back of the middle. I ended up, when Fairclough scored that goal, I ended up by the Camden Road corner flag. That's how much this like wave of emotion, you know what I mean? It was just incredible. And the singing and the dancing, and it was just, at that time, not many, the stands never used to sing. You know, it was mainly the Kop that sang, or the Abbey Road. But that night, when they all started singing "We Shall Not Be Moved," the whole ground was singing it. And we were all pointing at the stands. We couldn't believe it. They were all up and singing. So, and that was only the quarter-final. People think it was the semi-final, but it was only the quarter-final. And we just knew that night. I mean, I'll never forget going home on the bus, and you were just sort of on this high, this sort of drunk on adrenaline. And this fella went, we're going to Rome, lad, he said. He said, I can smell the fucking pasta. That's what he said to me.
So then it was Zurich in the semi-final, and then the exodus from Liverpool. Tell us about some of the things that people were doing to get the money together to go to Rome. Well,
I mean, it was. I mean, in them days, skint was skint. I mean, I was working in a garage myself, and like the flights were like just on 150 quid, something like that. I couldn't afford that because a month's wages then was only 60 odd quid for me. So in working in this garage, so. I mean, I've said many a time, the gods were shining on me at that time because one day this wagon come in and I was filling it with the diesel pump, and the digits just jammed, but the diesel was still coming out. You know what I mean? So I was like that, and I've said in the book, it was like I could have been looking at a 7-7 jackpot on a fruit machine because basically I got free license then to just fill wagons and cars up as long as you'd sold diesel. You know what I mean? You could do anything because in the end, I phoned a taxi company up, Kirby taxis, and the first few cabs coming in, they were like wary at first. I was just filling them up and saying, yeah, give us a 5, give us a 10, and blah. I was just stuffing it in my pockets, and next thing, like another, and they blew through. And next thing, there's 10. In the end, I'm not kidding you, there must have been about 60, 100 taxis and they went from the diesel pump right down East Lancs and into Kirby down Moorgate Road, and I was panicking. I said in the book, I was like fucking Edward Scissorhands, trying to fill things. But in the end, honestly, in the end, it ended up like just on 400 or 500 quid, which was a hell of a lot of money then. You know what I mean? And I got home and I threw 100 quid to me ma that night as well. It was all diesel stinking pound notes and that. But that's what got my stitch around. But all my mates, I mean, one of my mates, he sold all his record collection, all his LPs, all his singles. He had to sell a lot. A mate of mine had an apprentice sheet metal worker's job, and he gave that up to get the severance pay. So he gave up, he actually gave up a skilled job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there was another lad. He sold his Ford Capri and sold his bird that the car had been robbed. So that's how he got his money. So yeah, and there was people doing all sorts around the time. I remember there was a fella in town, and he was busking for Rome, and he had like a Roman gladiator's outfit on, and trying to get his Rome money together, and there was houses getting painted everywhere, lawns getting mowed, and it was just. He'd done anything to get the money. Like the trains it started off as 59 quid, which was like a month's wages for me. But it went up to 70 quid because the French were on strike as usual. And they had to be a detour through Belgium, Germany and Switzerland to get to Italy. So that's where the extra money come in. So instead of going on a Tuesday, everything got put back to the Monday. And so the trains were leaving on the Monday then. And there was actually 12 trains went. 5,000 went by train.
Did they all leave on the Monday, all 12 trains?
Yeah, one went in the afternoon and the other 11 at night. Because when we got to town, I should have seen on the Monday night when we got to town, it was just unbelievable. Everyone was doing the congas around Casey Street and all that. It was just the atmosphere was electric. And I lost my brothers and my mates that I went down on the bus with, and the bus driver, he didn't charge us or not. Yeah, lads, get on, and everyone was shaking their hands and all that, So the atmosphere just before we left was fantastic. But I lost my brothers because they were in the Star and Garter, and I went to the Yankee bar. And the next thing we got mixed up. So, and in them days there was no mobile phones. That was it. Once you lost someone, then that was game over. You know what I mean? So I thought, I'll catch them somewhere along the line. So. But the send-off that we got from Lime Street that night, I'll never forget that either. That was special. Pity there wasn't any phones or cameras and all that back then, because there was hundreds came to just see us off, all women and kids and that. And it felt like we were going to like the Crusades in the war or something, because we're all waving up the window. And they're all like cheering and all that. It was just it was like emotional, It was fantastic. But anyway, we got on one of them Isle specials, and anyone who went on an Isle train in them days, they'll tell you, it was. I think I've described it in one sense. It's like getting dragged over cobblestones in a rickshaw for about 500 miles or something. It was just.
You remember the old football specials, don't you, John?
I certainly do. Yeah, I've always said that if you put cattle on them, the RSPCA they got in touch and said you can't do that.
Yeah,
they were the better ones.
That's how bad they were. Yeah, and so this one was probably worse than any of them, was it?
Well, I reckon that what it was, the new football fans might wreck them. It just saved them a job, because they didn't have much use after football fans had been on them.
And Dave, you're going to be away for about 5 days. So what did you pack?
Well, that was another funny thing, because when we left Mars, I mean, usually like you're going away for 5 days. Now you're taking suitcases and everything, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? But we came out of Mars that day, and we had a little co-op bag, like quick save bag or whatever, and we had a packet of crisps, a drink, and a can of Coke and an apple, and that was it. Three things. We had.
But is that what everybody had?
Well, everyone just had plastic bags with sarnies in. That was it. No, there was no change of clothes or nothing. No, there was no. I mean, in fact, our kid said to me, he said the reason I take the apple, he said, because it'll clean our teeth. That's what he said. Save us cleaning our teeth. So we're using the apple as a toothbrush. You know what I mean? So, but that was like, I mean, it was hilarious. But everyone had plastic bags, and we ended up tying them around the belt loop in our jeans and that, So everyone was walking out with these bags, tied around their jeans. But I mean, and even the football special ticket, John's just said there that he remembers the football specials. It was just a little tiny pink ticket, wasn't it? We used to say.
Yeah, I can show you what they look like. Can you see that?
Lift it a bit further up, John. That's it there. Yeah,
that was a ticket. That's an enlarged version.
Yeah, it's not actual size. The actual size was probably about this big, was it?
Yeah, matchbox size.
We thought they'd make an effort for Rome, because when you went to Leeds or Manchester, you used to say Leeds and back, But we got to the station when we got our tickets. We were about that big and just said Romanbach. As if it's down the road, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And they sold plenty of platform tickets on that day as well, didn't they, Dave?
They said, well, funny enough, one of my mates, Vinny, he's funny, Vinny, he turns up and he said, I'm going to bunk the train. But he turned up in a pair of white jeans, a white T-shirt and a white hat. You know, like, so someone who wants to look a bit conspicuous, you know what I mean? He was all in white, and I mean, he looked like a painter and decorator or something, but he said, what I'm going to do, he said, I'm going to get a platform ticket on platform 6. He said, and shoot over the lines and get on the drone train. So he gets the platform ticket. And when he gets on the platform, he said there's about 40, 50 scousers doing the same thing. He said but the London train was pulling out and they're all waving to them, by the way they knew them. He said all the people on the train, well, look at them, let them show you the fucking holiday. Like, they're all waving to them. But the coppers were onto it and they stopped them coming over the lines, you know what I mean? So that's what, so we said, I'll try another way. And he gave me his sarnies. He had a little bag and he didn't even have his passport or no lira or nothing. He had nothing. So we said, I'll try and get in down further down. There used to be an hour ladder down there on Skellon Street, like a metal ladder. And you could get, if you went over it, you can come down further down platform 9. And he said, I'm going to try the fire escape ladder. It was a fire escape ladder. So we just got off and I thought, that's the last time I'll see him. So anyway, Vinny, he just disappeared and I had his sarnie. So gets on the train, the first one down to Folkestone. And it was one of them old rattlers, what we used to call the rattlers, like John's just been explaining there. It was absolute. But like we kept consoling ourselves, saying at least when we get to Belgium, you know what I mean? There'll be like, and everyone's saying, there's going to be some state-of-the-art trains. I believe they're brilliant over there and all that. So anyway, we get over there and we're in Ostend Station. And like we're all waiting for this sort of intercity bus train. And this thing comes along. And you could hear it. What the fuck? We thought it can't be ours. It was like it looked like something from that. It must have been used since the war or something. Do you know what I mean? It was just like an old steam train, and it had all different carriages on it. And we got on it, and it stunk. It was dead musty. It stunk, and like half of it was a Belgian train, and the other half was from France, and it was like. Half was the carriages with the famous luggage racks in, and the other half was just like seats with no tables. But it was honestly, there was by about the Monday nights, the Tuesday morning or something like that, all the food had ran out, and he had to, and even the tannoy system, it sounded like something from the war. Well, this voice going, like that Lord Ho-Ho, it was like him. From the war, it was like. We regret to inform you that there's no water. There was no water. The water ran out in the toilets and the sinks, so you couldn't get a wash. And and the bogs, honestly, the toilets, they was seriously bum damaged. You know what I mean? They were like, I actually described it in the book as I said it was like someone had just emptied £56 of King Eddie's down the pan. You know, every toilet you went in, it was horrendous. So. Yeah, there was women on board as well. You know, there was women on board, but I mean, it was bad enough for us. But like we can rough it, can't we, a little bit, fellas? But the girls on board, and at first they were all in costume and lovely makeup and all that. By the Wednesday, you should see in the States of them, all the makeup was done and all that. All the hair was all they couldn't get a wash or nothing. Or it was rough. But yeah, but we stopped at a couple of stations and they wouldn't let us off because at that time, you know. English fans abroad had a terrible reputation. You know, Tottenham had wrecked the Rotterdam Stadium and set fire to it, and the Leeds fans had rioted in Paris. So we had a terrible reputation. So they wouldn't let us off at the stations. So you couldn't even get off and get something to eat. You know what I mean? It was horrendous. So every station was coppers, you know, with batons and guns and all that waiting on the station. You couldn't get off. So it was like that was the Tuesday night. It was getting a bit desperate. You know, it was really bad. But what saved the day was like it was like mid-evening and everyone was moaning and crying. It was like arguing with all the stewards and stuff. And then next thing, someone in the distance, you just seen the Swiss Alps. Now, for someone who's just never been, we'd only ever been to Salacher and Rill. Do you know what I mean? I'd never been out of Liverpool, apart from away games, but never been abroad. But anyway, it was like a sunny night and these Swiss Alps were in the distance. And as we got nearer them, you know, they were like orange with these snow peaks on the top, and it was absolutely breathtaking. And it just calmed everyone down, and we went right through the mountains, right through the Swiss Alps. It that was something else. Like, but you know, but then we had another. It finally stopped and got water on board in a place called Chiasso, on the other side of the Alps there. So we got the water on board, but there was still no food, and you were just starving on it. It was like, you know, it was getting desperate then. You know what I mean? You're really, really hungry, and I was like that then. I was like dead skinny. Do you know what I mean? But there was like all fat fellas going. There's all fat fellas walking around going, oh, you know, they were starving. You know what I mean? So like. Anyway, you could tell it was going to be a cracking day because on the morning it was like it was about 6:30, something like that, when we started rolling into the outskirts of Rome, and we could see it when here it is, and everyone was like buzzing and woke up and looking out the windows and all that. But as we were rolling in, it was all the flats with like verandas and graffiti and washing hanging from lines and all that. We were expecting this, like something like the Mario Lanza film, The Seven Hills of Rome or something. We were expecting that, but it was like, anyway, one of the lads was like, everyone was quiet and I just heard his voice going, it's a fucking shithole. So it was like, we get off anyway, we got off. And the first thing we was a bar over the road and we got to there. And it was funny because everyone was coming off. Everyone had been sleeping in the luggage racks. I mean, we didn't get in them until they were coming home, but they were ruthless because it was like 3 bars across it. It was like a bar across where your head was, one in the middle and one by your feet. And you could get away with the one by your head because it was always grabbed a flag or something. But the one in the middle was a killer, no matter what way you turned. But like these ropes, they were just made of crisscross ropes. So like if you're in it for about an hour like that, you get up and it used to take ages, for the rope marks to go. So like, it was funny seeing everyone coming off the train with these like crisscross marks all over them. You know what I mean? I mean, and the Italians had a bad name, a reputation for pickpocketing in them days, and and we were thinking, if they see this lot coming off the train, only if they're looking to tip anyone, they must be thinking, what the fucking hell is this coming off? Because you all look like destitute, half beards, hadn't hardly slept or it for 3 days. So yeah, I mean, it was just that was. So we got to Rome anyway. We got to Rome, and I met 2 great lads on the way because I lost my brother. And in Folkestone, some fella said, I've seen your Mick before. He said he'd see you by the Colosseum. I said, as if like you're going to see him there. But yeah. I said, all right, yeah. So I met these 2 lads from Kirby, Wardy and Jimmy. Great lads and funny as well. But like it was a little day. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we'd never had spaghetti before. No, like proper spaghetti, white stuff. Yeah. It was always like the stuff out the tin. You know what I mean? That's all we ever knew. So we goes for a bolognese, and anyway, they put a proper bolognese, and Jimmy's going, "What's that?" He said to them, "What's that?" And the fella's going, "Oh, no, like Manuel out of Faulty Towers." He's going, "Oh," and he goes, "It's not cooked. It's not cooked." He thought it wasn't cooked, no, because it was white. But it was crazy. But anyway, we got into it, and it was lovely when we had it. Like, but all day, I mean, the things that happened that day. I mean, I remember Frankie Carlisle, Franny, he's a good mate of mine. His mates, he went to Colosseum, and he's saying to his mates, meet us up by the Colosseum, and they were like, "What time's the bar open till there?" They thought it was a club, this Colosseum. Because it was a nightclub. But it was just amazing. But to take over Rome, 26,000 of us went there as well, and it was like, and at the time in 1977, it was the biggest mass exodus from Britain since the D-Day landings. Yeah. And that's a fact, you know what I mean? So it was like 26,000, like, and it was just amazing to be there.
But you mentioned earlier how the police were wary because of the reputation of English fans, but it must be said that there was no trouble at all. There wasn't a single arrest, was there?
Not one at all. And the mayor of Rome, he made a statement after it and said, like, the Liverpool fans are welcome back anytime. Because of it, there wasn't one single arrest, and it was just magical on the day. I mean, I remember seeing, it was funny because we were in this bar this in the afternoon time, full of Scousers, and someone went, "What's that?" And it was like, there used to be an old electricity board called Manweb.
Yeah, Manweb, yeah. That's where you got your Lecky from, yeah.
Lecky, yeah. So it was based in Bootle, the main yard. So then someone said, "Is that a Manweb van going past in the middle of Rome?" So with a Liverpool flag hanging out the window. So anyway, we went past, and then we've found out since then the 2 lads do work for Manweb, and he booked a week on the sick and robbed one of the vans out the yard
and drove it to Rome. So you're in the ground, and you probably can't see the banners when you're in the ground, but one of the banners there became legendary, and you've described it as the Scouse Bayou Tapestry, and you've got it behind you. Do you want to just show us the banner, Dave, and just explain the story behind it, because it mentions the quarterfinal and the semi-final in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible, when we got into the Cave of North, them little checkered flags, they were getting sold outside for worked out about £3.50. So like everyone was getting one. Just nearly everyone had one. So when we got in there, we were like blown away. Like, look at that. But there was all sorts of flags, and there was all ingenious kind of like things. The actual boot that you mentioned before, here we go gathering cups in May. That was actually a banner in there. That was a banner that was a lad called John MacDonald, his ma, came up with that one. So, and that was in there as well. But it was like when in Rome, do as the Scousers do. That was another one. You know what I mean? It was like there was loads of cracking ones, but then right in the middle was this amazing piece, and like called Jimmy Cummings and Phil Downey. They made it, and obviously, it describes the quarter final, the semi final, and the final. Because Joey Jones at the time, for anyone who doesn't know anyone watching at the moment, Joey was he was a legend at the time. He was like our hero, and he was like a cult hero. Everyone loved him. So he had that, when he scored, Joey, he'd always run to the cop like that with his fist. You know what I mean? He was a cop idol. So, and he used to get stuck in. He was a tough tackler, Joey. You know what I mean? So basically, when Phil Downey and Jimmy Cummins went for the Saint-Etienne game, he just made a small one called Joey Eats the Frog's Legs, obviously like the French, like a French sort of team. And then he just done that one. So then they made they went to Zurich, and they made one called, it said, without a doubt, Zurich, you're out. So they had this Swiss one. And then they were thinking of something to do for the final, and it was Phil Downey's mum who come up with the idea.
Because we're playing, for those who don't know, we beat Borussia Mönchengladbach. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were playing Mönchengladbach in the final. So, it was like bit of like wit, a bit of phrase, bit of humour and all that. But Joey ate the frog's legs, made the Swiss roll, and now he's Mönchengladbach. And it was just, it's when you think about it, it's simple, but it was perfect for the time. But in that Cave of North, you had all these flags everywhere, and that was right in the middle. You know what I mean? That was like the main one. And like everyone was looking at it, and Barry Davis even makes reference to it in his commentary on the night. And it's just from then on. Banners nowadays. It's a Scouse art, isn't it? You know what I mean? Basically, no one makes them and does them like Liverpool FC. But it all goes back to this one, and like it's this is fantastic piece of work. And the family now, Kelly, Hannah, and Adam Downey. They've got it now, but Phil passed away. So like a couple of years ago, I managed to get LFC TV to capture Phil's story before he passed away, and he managed to hang on just till we won number 6 in Madrid, Phil, and then he passed away the next day, which is really poignant. And but this amazing piece of artwork behind me has inspired thousands and thousands of flags since, hasn't it? No, let's face it, it's the mother and daddy of them all. And I actually read the piece out the book, on that LFC TV documentary about the flag.
Yeah.
And I got to know Phil really well over the years. And Jimmy Cummins died in 1999, Jimmy, so he's only young and he's but the two creators have gone now. But as I've said, the legacy lives on through this flag. But it was just, it's all part of that night, and the first time for everything. And we're just going on to win that night, and we won it like champions. We played fantastic. We were like champions of Europe then. Istanbul was brilliant, magnificent, and you'll never beat that the atmosphere and the comeback. It was the best comeback in history and the best game probably. But like Liverpool were proper champions then. And like in Istanbul, we had some players there, like didn't we, that we were like Yozumi and Biscan, Triori, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
And we finished 5th that season too, where we'd won the title in '77 and nearly won the FA Cup if it hadn't been for that slip up. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I got this. I don't know if you can see this tattoo on my arm. I got that in to go to Rome. It's funny because I got it on the Friday before we went to Rome. We were playing Man United on the Saturday. And I got that in a fella called Sailor Jack in Chubuk. There's only one tattooist in Liverpool at the time. Sailor Jack. I think he'd never even been on the Isle of Man ferry. And he was only like a big fat fella. He was always pissed as well, and he was half pissed when he was doing it. I could smell the ale on him, when he's doing this. And I was going, oh shit, because as he was doing it, he was taking a swig of like whiskey and that, as he was doing it. But the liver bird, I don't know if you can see it, the liver bird looks like a duck. Like all the lads call it the liver Zozo, they call it. But the irony was that I got that to go to Rome, but by the Wednesday it all scabbed over. So I had like a plaster on it, so no one's seen it in Rome. So that was, but but as I said, it was just that incredible night. We played like champions. We won it for the first time, and I remember I'll never forget a fella next to me. We were down by the front fence. I was only like 18 back then, 17, 18, and there's a fella, he's probably about my age now, and he was sobbing his heart out, and I was thinking, what's he crying for? I was only young then, I didn't know. And he was going, that's my team. He said, I watched them in the second division. And like when you think about it, 77, it was only 20 years before that we were in the second division, you know what I mean? So and he'd seen us go from the second division obscurity to like champions of Europe, and he was sobbing his heart out, this fella. Yeah. But I didn't get on it at the time, but obviously I totally understand where his head went to now. But I mean, it was just an amazing night, and like then we had another 2 days to get back home, because what happened then? As soon as the game was finished, we had to get back to the station and get back home. And there was no buffets or nothing. There was no packs, and you couldn't eat nothing. So like, anyway, and you know what it's like after the game, and we were all dehydrated and done in. But then on the Thursday coming home, we were hearing like people were saying all the flights will be landing back in Liverpool, and they're all back home now. And the homecoming, we missed all that. We were still on the trains. But coming home, I'll never forget it, because it got that desperate. It was somewhere, I don't know where it was, I don't know where this little village was, but because they wouldn't let us off at stations and that, the train pulled up, and there was like a village town below. And it only pulled up for it hadn't pulled up at a station, it was just pulled up for some water or something. And all the doors opened on the train, and everyone just bailed off, didn't give a shit. They all running down to this little village. Hundreds of us down, it was like on a slope like that. And you could see people in the village going, and they started running, no one's getting out the way. They must have thought there was going to be a riot. But like, there was one shop in the village, one little tiny shop, and then had bread rolls and all that hanging up, and people just ripping them down and eating them in the street. It was just, then the shop itself, we were all ransacking everything, and we were all throwing him lira, and he's going 9, 9, 9.
Because he's in Germany or somewhere.
So we're all throwing lira at him. But it was no good to him, but we just absolutely, it was like a crowd of locusts, just eating anything. I remember running back up the hill, and I had a jar of peanut butter, and I was like eating it with my fingers. It was just, but that was on the Thursday. So by the Friday, it was just absolutely, everyone was like, it was desperation state. And that's when I got a taste of the luggage racks. That's when I got in one. And that was rough. I went to sleep for about 6-7 hours, and it took about that long for the rope marks to go off my face. But there was people walking up and down, like knocking. And I remember some fat fella opening our carriage, and our carriage door, he was offering like £5, which is a lot of money then. It's like offering 20 quid, a £5 for a sarnie. Anyone got a sarnie? I'll give them a £5. And this other fella, in the end, I had to laugh though. Some other fella, he opened the carriage door, and we all looked at him like that, and it was like quiet, and he held his hand out like that, and we were all looking at him, and he said, does anyone want to buy a fly? And he opened his palm, and he had the dead fly in his palm. But it was mad, and we eventually got to Ostend on the Friday afternoon, and like the ferries, I mean, you should have seen that the buffet got absolutely ransacked. It was like, you're just starving. And the breakfast bar on the ferry, it was just desperation. But by this time, you hadn't had a wash, you hadn't had nothing for days on end. And I remember some fella as well on the way there, he said, because no one had sun cream as well. You got to remember, this is 77. No one had been abroad, so we didn't take sun cream or nothing. And like my mate Jimmy, he fell asleep at one point in the day, but his head fell. No, he was in the shade, and his head fell out into the sun, and his head, his nose. I should have seen his nose was bad. It come out something like one of them clown noses. But this other fella, he was saying on the special going there, he was going, the best thing to use is oil, you know.
What, like cooking oil? Olive oil?
Yeah, no, like olive oil. He said, use olive oil. He said it's protects you. So that was going there, and then seeing him on the ship, coming home, and he was walking like the same man there was. He was walking like he was burnt to a crisp. This fella, but like no one had sun creams, and even my nose was like red raw, for weeks on end. You know what I mean? It was all peeling and all that. But we finally get back on. We got to Ostend and then we got to Folkestone. And there was another 7 hours on one of them shitty specials, back to the alarm sleep. We got back about 7 o'clock that night. And my mates, Jimmy and Wardy, they went straight to Anfield because Liverpool were Tommy Smith's testimonial.
That's right, testimonial, yeah.
And they got a taxi straight to the grounds and I was thrown in. I said, I can't. I was like, I had heartburn and everything was thrown in. I was starving. And that's another thing. I never did meet me brother.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when we scored, when Phil Neal scored the penalty, we were bouncing around like that. I was spinning around. The next thing, the lad who started to bunk me, mate Vinny, he was there. He managed to
done it with no ticket and no passport.
Yeah, he got on the train, no ticket, no passport, and got away with it. So everything was working out well. But when I got home, it took a few days to get over it, I'll be honest. It was thrown in, but I've always said to it, because people usually used to say, did you go on the Nightmare? That was what the train journey was called, the Nightmare, years ago. And I suppose, like, if we would have been beat, that night, well, it would have been just an absolute nightmare. But because we won it, it's gone into like an epic kind of adventure. You know what I mean? It's like gone down in folklore.
Yeah,
and I'm and I'll be honest with you, if I had the chance, I'd do it again. I'd do that again. That whole 5 days. I mean, it was just fantastic. The laughs and the buzz we had, and it was our first one as well. Not to win the first one, the first one of everything is fantastic, isn't it? But to win the first European Cup that night, and I was only young, and I little did I know what was coming after that. All this massive success. We were just at the right age, and all my generation, we were lucky. Like my alpha, he'd been through all the second division stuff and piss and all that on the Al Cop and all that, and when it was a dump, and then we were about to reap the rewards of all that. My generation, and in 100 years' time, what we've seen, I mean, the CV we've got, lads of my age, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So Rome was the first one, and that's why it's always got that special thing, special place in your heart. I know I've spoke to loads of Reds my age, and we've been to all the finals and all that, and they always say like that one. There's just something about that Rome, that magic of that night. You know what I mean? But that's why this thing behind me, this beautiful banner, it is. It's destined for it. There's a new museum being proposed for Anfield at some time.
Yeah,
and that's going to go on permanent display forever beyond perspex. You know what I mean? Which is poignant and appropriate, really, because it deserves it. Because I mean, all the great banners you see now, they always say that's the one. That's the one. Peter Carney, as we know, he's a fantastic banner maker. Peter, makes all the Hillsborough banners, and he makes a banner for nearly every match now. He's fantastic. But he says this is the one that inspires him. You know what I mean? So it's like, to be in its presence is really nice. And I've got a couple of neighbours knocking later, to get the pictures with it before it goes back.
Yeah.
So that's. But as I say, Rome 77 for me. It's just embedded. I mean, everyone loves the story in that book. That's it, and it needs documenting. It's documented there forever now.
And here on Read All Over YouTube as well. Ian McNeil's been in touch. He says that's exactly what I thought when I arrived in Rome. So you've brought back a lot of memories there as well. Height and Fatties says evening fellas as well. So you've touched a lot of memories. And to have the banner there, and the banner, the inspiration for banners that came along after it, that's a good point to bring in another banner man. Let's bring him in now. Let's bring in Paul Stewart. How are you, Paul? Oh, hello, we can't hear you. What have you done? What have you done?
Hello, Paul.
You got to get your sound on, Paul. There must be some kind of thing with a line, maybe a speaker with a line through it, or a microphone with a line through it somewhere on your display that you can click, because we want to find out about another level. I think are you there now, Paul? I've got a message, Paul, for what it's worth. It says guest has muted themselves. So it's definitely at your end. Whatever you've done, you've muted yourself somehow. For those who don't know, Paul is responsible for the famous banner, "Wine for my men, we ride at dawn." John, when did you first see the banner, Paul's banner, while Paul's working out his sound?
I first saw that banner at Barcelona 2001. We'd gone into a square. There was three of us. There was Mary's son, Richard. There was Steve Hales, who also sells the fanzine. And we were in this square, and there was an array of banners. There were one or two that referenced Gary Neville's upbringing, general opinion of him. You can't really make. I saw this one, "Wine for my men," and we went and had a look at it, and I spoke to Paul and I said, can I have a photo? I told him we were from Read All Over the Land, and Paul said, yeah, come on. And I think there were some people there from the Daily Mirror, and Paul said, yeah, you come wait. This is for the fanzine. And of course, it ended up on the cover of the fanzine a couple of issues later.
So, Paul, we've got your sound now, have we?
Well, can you hear me? I can hear you clearly.
We've got you now,
Yeah,
Paul.
we can hear you now.
You're live to the world.
Yeah. I haven't touched anything apart from the Guinness. So,
Well, tell us about the banner now. The phrase itself, "Wine for my men, we ride at dawn," it's been misquoted as being from Gladiator, from various westerns, from all. What is the actual source of "Wine for my men, we ride at dawn"?
Well, it actually has got nothing to do with me. It was a friend of mine who we used to go to Europe together, and he got it. We lost our normal pub banner, the Peel Hotel, in Valencia. We got a little bit tipsy in Valencia, and somehow we lost it in the bar. You know, that was in 1998, 97, 98. And then I started going with a couple of local lads then to the European trips. I love the European games. I don't think you can beat them. But you have to be with the right people as well. It makes a big difference. Anyway, the lads in Oilake on the Whittle, they started going to European games, so we jumped on with them. And I told them we'd lost a flag in Valencia. And Richie Mains, he said, oh, I've got a great idea for a flag for you to take. "Wine for my men, we ride at dawn." Well, I laughed at that. I just said, what's that? What's the football thing? And I don't get it. So he said, no, he said, remember when we went to Aston Villa Boxing Day and it got closed? When we got to the ground, we seen the team bus going the opposite way. I said, yeah. He said, remember that lad in the off licence? And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't. He said he stood there in the off licence and went, "Wine for my men, we ride at dawn." And it just kind of stuck there. So we don't really know where it come from. But I went into work a couple of days later. I work for a graphic communications company. So I got our artwork studio to put that with the cups on. And everyone in the office went, "That's fantastic." So I took it to some woman in Birkenhead, and she put it together. But to be honest with you, we were invaded. The internet took off then, you know what I mean? It was like everyone wanted a badge or a cup or something. But it paid for me European trips for about 3 or 4 years. I sent stuff to all the European supporters clubs were bombarding me with checks and monies and euros in the post. And then we played Arsenal in 2002. And the Japanese supporters club ordered all these t-shirts. And he met me outside Anfield. And I just said to me, mate, the time, they've only ordered small. Everyone, they've ordered like 40 t-shirts. But they're all small. When you turned up outside the Albert, it looked like something out of 7 fucking dwarfs. But yeah, it was great. It took me everywhere as well. Everywhere you went, you know what I mean. It was. It went to New York in after we won the treble in 2001. Went to New York, and well, you've got Justin on later. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
It was the 17th. It was the Irish Day, the 17th of St. Patrick's.
Yeah.
And we were in a pub called an Irish name, obviously. Just don't remember the name of the pub. And apparently, if the tour stops at your pub, it's free ale. Well, all these lads outside the bar with our flag, they were all 7'6", all like basketball players. And within 5 minutes, the St. Patrick's Parade stopped outside this bar. Well, we all thought it was kids to come in the eye. It was to get pictures and photos with the flag. Well, we were, Justin doesn't drink. Justin can only have a smell of the barmaid's apron, and he's gone.
Right.
But I was caned. I must have had about 40 pints of bitter. But, yeah, he's just told me it's McCormick's Bar. McCormick's Bar it was in New York. And I've got some fantastic pictures. And I keep in touch with quite a few lads over in there, purely because of the flag. And then a couple of years later, we actually went on tour there, didn't we? We played the Giant Stadium and up in Canada. That was another trip there. I jumped on the Amtrak, 12 hours on the Amtrak from New York up to Toronto. Absolutely pissed. Got to Toronto, had my bag and my flag. I didn't know what hotel I was in. I was absolutely cabbaged. People just keep buying you things, don't they, you know? And with me being a pig, I just take them. But it was a simple throwaway remark. But believe it or not, I told you before, I used to race pigeons as well. I got one of my pigeon magazines the other week, sent to me. I don't get it anymore with not racing them. And one of the lads sent me the weekly one. And apparently it's a quote for something to do with... I'll try and dig it out for you and send it to you, John, if you want to put it in a fanzine.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think it's got nothing to do with pigeons. But it's been quoted in the pigeon magazines anyway.
So where is the banner now? Yeah, I was just going to ask that, Dave. Where is the banner?
It's in the club museum. That's why we have to get a new one made for Istanbul. When they were going to build that new ground with them first two Yanks, they told us they were going to have a European Cup section and a UEFA Cup section, and they wanted the Joey flag in the European Cup section and our flag in the UEFA Cup section. It's never come about, as you know, but it's still there. It's still there.
All right. Hi to Constantine Billa. I hope I've said your name right. He says, I saw the Wine for My Ben banner in Barcelona in 2001 as well. Does anyone know Constantine?
I know Constantine.
Yeah.
The Barcelona Supporters Club borrowed it too.
They did?
I've got friends in Barcelona, but before it went in there, they borrowed it for some big prize nights in the their club is in, I think it's, the John something, another Irish pub, and the Barcelona Supporters Club had our flag there. It's been everywhere. It's been absolutely everywhere.
Well, you mentioned Justin. You mentioned Justin in New York. It'd be a good time to bring him in now. So, Justin, welcome to Red All Over YouTube. Your second appearance on the show. You were on the last episode. You're on 2 for 2 at the minute. So,
thanks so much.
You were in Istanbul, and we'll talk about Istanbul now. Did you know Paul before Istanbul, or did you meet him in Istanbul?
Oh yeah, no. I knew him before, and it was around about 2002, and actually Paul came over to New York, and it was terrific. We've got some great photos on the Empire State Building with the banner and everything, and so I knew him beforehand, and just been a great friendship. Yeah, it's about 20 years literally this year.
Right. So, what's your background then? How come you're a Liverpool fan in New York? What's the deal there?
Okay, good point. I moved over to Scotland in October '77 with my mother and sister, and obviously that was sort of the heyday of King Kenny had just joined and retained the European Cup that season, and it just. And obviously there was a big, with Hansen and Souness and Kenny, a big jock contingent. So it's always stayed with me. It's really what a unique club, definitely.
And have I spelt your name right there? Your last name, tell me.
Oh, yes, perfect.
Yeah, because you told me you can never marry. There's a particular movie star you can never marry.
Right. Sharon Stone, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You know Sharon.
I tell you, he's one of the strangest fellas when it comes to women I've ever met.
What's that supposed to mean, Paul?
He's a fucking head case. His house is spotless. His apartment is spotless. And he pays $400 or $300 for this Polish cleaner She's shite at cleaning, but she's an absolute stunner. and he won't ask her out.
So how come you got together in Istanbul then?
Well,
Okay, so, you know,
I organised a trip for all the lads, and he was in our hotel.
Yeah.
And he turned up. We gave him absolute spot-on directions. We were literally 2 minutes from Taxham Square. He turns up, walks round the corner as we're going out towards Taxham Square. He had his big blue American passport in his shirt pocket sticking out. And inside that, he had the fucking top of his match ticket sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had a fucking big handkerchief with all sorts of war medals in.
That's right.
That's something his dad had won in some fucking battle in Korea or something. Honest to God, he's a fantastic lad, but I could, without mentioning football again, I could talk about him for 2 days.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep it, because we're trying to keep this to the theme of the 25th of May. And we got Dave's story from Rome, which was the 25th of May in 77. And in 2005, it was Istanbul. I was there. John was there. I was lucky. I got there was a coach put on for us from our hotel to the ground, because the journey to the ground was something else. For anyone who wasn't there, the ground was like what looked like on some waste ground. Like it was partial desert by the looks of things. It looked like the ground had just been dropped out of space into the middle of nowhere, and this brand new winding dual carriageway went from the town all the way up to the ground, which I don't know, it felt like it was like 10 miles away. I don't know what the distance was. You couldn't walk
20 odd miles away.
Was it? You couldn't walk it. It was that far.
No.
And there was every form of transport on both carriageways, which were supposed to be going both ways, but they were all going the one way. It wasn't roped off that way. One of my favourite memories, apart from because the traffic was so slow, every now and again buses would empty and people would be peeing up against the side of the road. But one of the other things I remember was there was people who'd got these yellow taxis, and there was a taxi in the next lane to us on the bus, and the windscreen wipers, which normally go like that, had been pulled up, and a Liverpool scarf had been put on them, and the windscreen wipers were doing this with the scarf on. I mean, but there were so many sights like that on that day on the way to the ground. But you guys had a bit of an adventure, didn't you?
We had a couple of that. Danny Giles, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, Gilesy.
Well, they shot up to the stadium about midday, thinking they're going to park in a bar outside the ground.
There's nothing at the ground.
Yeah. There was no. Well, they didn't know that. That's Danny Giles for you.
Yeah.
So the next thing was he phones us and says, "Don't come to the stadium. There's nothing here." They then got a taxi to some little village 10, 20 minutes away. So we shot back to our hotel and spoke to the staff there. They organised an air-conditioned minibus. So all we had to do then was fill it full of beer. So we did that. We got a time what it'd take. So we set off, and we only got about 5 minutes out of Taxham Square when these Israeli news reporters would sign a thumb of lift. And I was more interested in the lanyards they had round the neck because it had press on. So I said, get them in there. We'll get in there somewhere nice and handy in the ground. So we got these 2 Israelis in, and they were great. Their English was great. Do you remember, Justin? He kept using the word bastard. He kept calling us, you bastard. He must have thought it was like a term of endearment.
Well, he'd probably heard it all day being used so much in the town that it must be, yeah.
Well, we set off then, and we got so far, and then the ale ran out. So we had to pull up somewhere in Istanbul or wherever it was, and we ran across into a bar and come back with another 3 or 4 slabs of Effies and what have you. And we came back. I wasn't stuck on that Effie's lager, but one of the lads come back with a slab of Effie's Dark, I think it was called. It was like Guinness, but somebody had pissed in it, but I had to drink it. And then next thing was Woody, one of the lads. I think there was 14 of us, 12 of us, plus the 2 Israelis, so 16 in that minibus. and one of the lads jumps out and jumps on the back of a motorbike, one of our lads.
So he didn't know the
And he-
fella riding the bike.
No, he was just some fucking tick going home for his dinner or something, and he was hijacked by one of our lads, and he took him basically all the way to the stadium, and he was telling us when we stopped off for a piss break, he was telling us the trick that the stadium was a moonscape.
Yeah.
And what the Turkish government had done was blew up all the mountains and levelled it, because obviously they know, I think it's 18 months, that they're going to hold a competition there. So they had nearly 2 years to blow all these mountains up and put land drains in. But I've got to be honest with you, we've seen some stadiums, haven't we, Dave, in Europe, you know, like picturesque. But when we turn round through that mountain and see the stadium there flat, it looked like something on fucking Mars. It was like a lunar vision. But it was. I still say you won't top Istanbul, but I still don't think it was as good as Rome '77.
Right.
It had everything going for it. Like where Dave said, you know, we never had for 2 or 3 days in Rome. We sat down on the Tuesday in Istanbul for a meal that would have filled the cup. The food he kept putting on the table, and I think it was only, I don't know, it was only a couple of quid each. But it was fantastic. And Justin, he's still wearing, see that scarf he's got there? Can you see his scarf?
Yeah.
That's his first ever scarf. He doesn't throw anything away.
No.
If you ever get the chance to stay in his apartment, Dave, if you want a shower, you have to jump over about 40 rows of programmes.
Right. So you're a bit of a hoarder, Justin.
Yeah, big
Hoarder,
time.
Jesus Christ.
So the famous the picture, the guy that went on the back of the motorbike, there was a picture taken of that. I don't know who took that, but that became a famous picture, didn't it, John? There you go. Our Road to Istanbul. That was the book you brought out afterwards. Let's have a look at it again. So this is this is Woody, is it? The fella on the back. Lift it up
Woody,
a bit, John. Just a bit higher up, John. That's it. So that's Woody on the back of the motorbike there. So that became the cover of John's book. Yeah.
Yeah, well that's the picture that we stopped, and we overtook the motorbike, so these Israelis could jump off and take the pictures.
Right. So that was Israeli press took that picture.
Yeah. Well, I've sent John just this evening 3 or 4 other ones, because when we got home, he sent me. There was a big report in the Israeli paper. I was telling John the other day by email. I don't even know whether I'd give it to Woody. But they sent me the Israeli newspaper. Obviously, you couldn't read it, but all the pictures were in there. But they were great lads too. They used to keep in touch for a couple of years, and his emails always started, "Hello, you bastard. Hope you're well."
Does he still know it's not a term of endearment then, do you think?
I haven't seen him now. He's most probably on the Gaza Strip firing fucking bombs. I don't know.
All right. Now, he's not wearing a shirt in the picture. Do you know what happened to his shirt then?
Yeah, he had it on. He was wrapping it round his head, and then he pinched this one. He drove past one of them yellow cabs and pinched the scarf off the yellow cabs, and he was doing that then. But it was every time he got to a police checkpoint, he jumped off and got his photo taken with the police and back on the bike. But I was concerned. I thought, it's going to end bad, this, but it didn't. It turned into a fantastic story.
Yeah,
and he's a cracking lad. He's a cracking lad.
Did you get to see any of the stuff on the stage by the ground, Paul? Wiley and all that?
No, Dave. By the time we got there, we set off in the afternoon, and we must have got there about, I'd say, 40 minutes before kickoff, and then it was like, lucky enough, you know when you said before you lost your kid and you lost Cliffy, you know, we were all together. We were lucky. We were all in that stand behind the goal, apart from our American friend. He was sitting up with the Israelis in the big seats. You know what I mean?
And Justin,
did Danny Giles make it? Did Danny make it?
Yeah, they were there, Dave.
Pissed, didn't he?
Well, he was. He's always pissed, isn't he? But they went. You know what he's like. He can't go anywhere without a gargle. He shot off to some bar. I can't remember. I don't know where the Gems he was with him, but they were disappointed to get there and find no beer on sale.
Yeah. And Justin, have you hoarded anything from the Istanbul trip then?
I definitely have. Actually, great minds think alike. That I have the book, and funnily enough, I don't know how it happened, and maybe in a drunken stupor in Taksim Square outside a kebab shop, but I ended up with Woody's shirt. So this is the shirt, and it's been in storage for 15 years, but it got a wash, and that's the one, and so I'll always treasure that. And actually next time I'm in Liverpool, I'll maybe have him autograph it, and because he was part of our group with John and with Johnny Mack and everyone, so great memories.
Great. All right. Well, we do have a mystery guest that could be joining us, and because of the way this works, I can only get 5 people on at once. So we're going to have to say goodbye to someone and say thank you very much. So Paul, is it okay? You can come back on later if you want. Is it okay if you if I disconnect you just so I can get this mystery guest on?
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't sound sure. It sounds like. It's like
the only reason I said that is like I booked Woody's trip. I got him his ticket.
Right.
And he's never thanked me.
Right. Never.
No, he has.
All right. So I'm gonna, Paul. Thank you very much. And the wine for my Ben banner. Where is it going to end up eventually if somebody wants to see it? Do you think?
It's in the club museum.
It's already in there now. Oh, you did mention that. So it isn't. So if you go on the tour and you go on the museum, it's in there.
Well, it's on the cop now. It's Peter Carney got it put on the cop. He wanted it on the cop while this COVID business was going on. Right.
Okay. All right.
So what's the name, Paul, by the way? No, they actually had the Joey banner in the museum, but they stored it, and Phil Downey had to go and get it back because they weren't doing nothing with it. So he took it back. That's why he got control of his banner again. So if they're not going to use it, just get it back off them till they're going to use it.
You know what, Dave? That's exactly what they've done with mine. It was on show for about 2 years. You know that one where they've got the turnstile? The cop barrier.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, well, ours was behind the cop barrier for about 2 years, and then they took it down for some reason. I don't know why. But, I am going to get it back because I'm going to put it up here in my bar.
Best place.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Paul, thank you very much.
Oh, cheers,
thanks,
Dave,
Paul.
no problem. Now, cheers, Dave. Cheers, John.
See you in a bit, Paul.
See you later.
How will I know? How will I know when I'm back on?
Well, yeah. What you'll do is you'll have to reconnect, and if it's already full, it won't let you connect. But if it lets you connect, you'll get back in.
Okay. Well, I'll go inside and see the missus then.
Okay. All right. Talk to you in a bit, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul.
No
Thanks
problem,
a lot.
John.
Thanks a lot. All right, so while we're waiting for our mystery guest to connect up, I should say hi to Mike Hennessy, who he says, hi, Justin, good to meet you at last. What's the story there, Justin?
Oh, yeah, it's hi, Mike. Yeah, it's actually, again, through the fanzine, Mike had noticed over the years that I dropped a few mentions of Hibs because I lived in Edinburgh, and I'm also a big Hibbie, and he's obviously a big Hibs fan too. So we've connected, and that's thanks to to the fanzine, and didn't have the best result on Saturday in the cup final. But interestingly enough, there's a news item today in the Edinburgh Evening News that Liverpool have taken a 16-year-old Hibs striker for a week's trial. So, and I know there's links going back to the Peter Cormack days in the 70s. So they're kind of my other team Hibs. So it's, again, I owe that to John, and that's how I know Mike now.
Right. Okay. Well, I can bring our mystery guest in now. They have connected, and I can say hi and welcome to Read All Over YouTube to Woody, the man from the motorbike.
Hi, Justin.
How are you, Woody?
I'm good, yeah, thanks.
We've just been talking to Dave, as you probably know. So if he said you haven't thanked him. He'll be watching now. You can thank him officially if you like, if you want to.
It was Paul.
Oh, what? Oh, I say. Who did I say?
You said Dave.
I said Dave. I don't know. Sorry, Dave. I meant Paul. Yeah. So what would you like to say to him then, Woody?
Can I have my T-shirt back, please, Justin?
Definitely.
If you remember,
yeah.
That was after the game. I think it was the Thursday, and I think you were leaving, and we met each other
right.
in the lounge. And
That's right.
I think you asked me for my T-shirt, didn't you? So I took my T-shirt off and gave you.
Woody, thanks so much, and it's just on loan. This is yours, definitely. It's a treasure, and I'd love to get a photo, with it when I'm in Britain. But this is definitely yours. You're such a legend. I remember that the Sunday in the Observer, the legend of Motorbike Man, and it went viral, that T-shirt, and yeah.
Well, that was it was an article in the paper on the bank holiday, either the Sunday or the Monday, and it was the miracle of Istanbul, and there was a write-up on that because you remember Si Morris, Moggy.
You're cutting out a little bit, Woody. Just run that past us again.
So when you got to the top of the hill and you overlooked the stadium, all the traffic had stopped, hadn't it? But I was on my motorbike, so one of the other lads, Moggy, he got out in the back, so there was actually 3 of us on the motorbike, and he took us right down. Him and everyone else just got out the taxis, and they were walking down the hills and that. 3 of us at the end.
And what possessed you then to just jump on a stranger's motorbike? Was it because of the frustration because of the traffic jam that was there? Oh, it's frozen. I think we're gonna lose Woody.
Is he froze? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's frozen. So,
just to ask you, Graham, what were you feeling when it was at half time?
Oh, I thought it was all over because at that time, because I spent 14 and a half years living in New Zealand and Australia. From 83 to 97, I was out the country. So I missed a lot of big, Liverpool games. And I'd been to a lot of Liverpool games, and I'd never been in a stadium when Liverpool had lifted a trophy. And the closest I'd got was 1978 was the League Cup final replay at Old Trafford against Forest. And we got beaten there when Phil Thompson was fouled on the halfway line and the ref said it was in the box. I mean, it was ridiculous. That was the closest I'd been. And I'd also been to the Charity Shield was it 2001 against Arsenal? So this was like the 3rd time I'd been in a stadium where the potential to lift a trophy was going to happen. And here we were 3-0 down at half time. And I thought, it's got to be me. All these years supporting Liverpool. And every time I've been in a ground where they could lift a trophy, it's not happened. And here we go again. And, my wife was with me and she's from New Zealand. And it was the first, really big game that she'd been to. I mean, she'd been at Anfield and everything. We'd been to big games and European nights, but we'd never been to anything like that. And I really just thought it was all over, and it was embarrassing. And then you heard that, you'll never walk alone. And then after the first goal, I said to Julie, we're back in this. And then the second one, it's like, we can do this. And then then there was that break before the penalties, and everybody went for a pee. And everybody was just dazed. And there was a bloke said to me, he just said, "Is this happening? Is this really happening?" And even the next day in the hotel, we were at breakfast, and there were people saying, "I had a dream. The match must be tonight because I had the weirdest dream last night." It was just, but it was just phenomenal, wasn't it? Wasn't it just amazing to be there? Yeah.
I mean, you'll never see nothing like that again. It was as if it was like something in the stars, wasn't it, that night? You know what I mean? It just felt like, there's something spiritual about it. You know what I mean? When I used to do that piece about it, I'll do it later. I did one night in Istanbul, but it's sort of trying to capture all that, the emotions and all that, and I mean, that's when we took the piss out of it in that film that we did.
Yeah,
15 minutes. The world. I mean, because everyone, I was wondering what happened at half time. I was thinking, what was Rafa like? And all the word was coming back that it was dead calm, and everything was cool, and I thought, we got to take the piss out of that. So we done the opposite, you know what I mean? We done them all knocking shit out of each other. So, but I mean, Stevie said they could hear it. They could hear they never walk alone from the dressing room. That's what he said. They could hear that coming down the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that definitely had some effect, you know what I mean? So it was surreal. I mean, you can't even for weeks after it, you were like walking around in a daze, man. You're going, I really witnessed that. It was just special.
Yeah.
Just so special. It was just amazing. And you'll never see nothing like it again. And as I said before, we weren't the greatest team around that time, were we?
Finished fifth. Yeah.
And at half time, you were just thinking, how bad can this get? Do you know what I mean? I was shitting myself in case it went to like 4, 5, and 6 and all that. You know what I mean? So it was just, as I say, every time you see it, and you never get sick of seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, every time you see that comeback.
Yeah.
Because we used to do it on the after dinner scene. We used to do it. We used to show it all the time.
Yeah.
And every time, and it's still the same now. 16 years later, you see that comeback and the way it worked out, and it still blows your head away. It's just amazing. Nothing will ever beat that final.
No,
for the excitement, the actual game. I mean,
the theme of it, the Johnny Cash Ring of Fire the whole time. Even when we went on a charter flight from Stansted, and even when we landed over the tannoy, you heard da, 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 da. Someone had grabbed the mic, and just as soon as we hit the ground, because it was now party time. Now we're back. The whole thing was just perfect.
One thing I remember was coming home, we decided that we would go into Liverpool and go to the homecoming because it'd been such a great occasion. So we left our hotel 10 o'clock in the morning. This is the day after the game. And people were standing in the street applauding as we were going, as if it'd been us. And then we were going down this road. And they came over the tannoy, and she said, whoever it was, and said, there's going to be a slight delay on the planes going back to England. So we'll take you on a tour of the city. We went down this road and then up this road and then back down it and then up this road again. And suddenly the driver stopped and says, you can go and have something to eat now. And when we're getting off the bus, somebody said to the courier, said, what's happening? He said, well, we don't know. We don't know when the planes are leaving. He said, because there's that many of them trying to get back to England, to Liverpool mainly, but to England. Said, just can't move at the airport. So we went in this restaurant right along the riverside. We dined, we had some food, and we walked out, and the people coming out of offices, there were people standing on the bridges, and they were applauding us, and they were shaking our hands as we walked out the restaurant. I thought, I can't take this. It's just unbelievable. But we got to the airport. I can't remember what time it was now, but the planes now were 3-4 hours delayed. And we got told, you're not going home at this time. So we were basically another few hours at the airport. Then they said, you can board now. And I'd actually bumped into Graham as John Aldridge. We'd been singing We Won It 5 times, and everybody flocked into this lounge.
It was a tent. It wasn't a lounge, John. It was a tent.
Yeah. But the other thing I remember were them toilets. I don't think you talk about those on that train, Dave.
I think they were probably worse on Dave's train, though, John.
They possibly were, but blimey, it was a case of, I'll wait till I get on the plane. But what was happening was when they were saying get on a plane, they're going to Liverpool. People were just getting on a plane.
Getting on any plane,
It was any plane. Just thinking, get back. I just want to get home. We got back to Liverpool, and somebody got the phone with them and said, the lads are outside George's Hall. I said, which lads? The team. Well, that cancelled the trip. That cancelled the homecoming party. But absolutely brilliant. Really was brilliant.
What about you, Justin? Did you fly back to the States from Istanbul, or did you fly to Liverpool first?
Yes, the States, and actually it was the outbound one was via Casablanca, which seems so appropriate given the sort of Hollywood ending, and then I was back actually by the Friday at my desk at work. It was a real flying visit, but really like one of the, I mean, if I live to be 100, I mean, I won't have a night like that again. Just incredible and surreal. And, you know, the Dudek save, I've been watching that again today, and just, it's so true. It was destiny. I mean, there's no question about it.
And Carragher saved one off the line as well in extra time. Something else. Sorry, what was that, Justin?
Oh yeah, and then also like not just the final, but the whole run, like beating Juventus with Talek in the team, and then there was named about it almost incredible.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
And funny enough, Graham, you know that song, the Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Did you know it was Jamie's half-brother, Philly Carragher, who started that? You know.
Was
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. He used to go on the coach from the fan sale in Kirby, and Philly started that like months and months before the final. And it was actually Philly Carragher who started the Ring of Fire song, yeah. So
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
More info.
Yeah. Hey, well, it's been great having everybody on. Sorry, what were you going to say, Dave?
No, just to pick up on the songs again, and from Rome '77, the famous one, "We're on our way to Roma," to the tune, "We're on our way to Roma," and that was Bobby Wilcox, who John knows.
The great Bobby Wilcox.
Yeah, God rest his soul. Like, he was fantastic. He was one of the most iconic fans we've ever had. But it was Bobby who made that little ditty up, you know what I mean, to Arrivederci Roma. But, everything. I mean, the songs, you affiliate the songs, and Ring of Fire definitely captures Istanbul, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It always will do.
Yeah, just amazing. Paul Webb says, great listening to all these memories. Went to all home games, but missed out on the final. Oh, Paul, yeah. So, well, it's been great having everybody on. John, thank you so much for Red All Over, for 25 years of Red All Over the Land. If anybody wants to subscribe, 26 years now, of course. If somebody wants to subscribe, what have they got to do? Where do they go?
Just www.redallovertheland.com.
And you'll check it out there, and you'll get all the information on when we do the next one of these. Yeah. Dave Kirby, fantastic talking to you. What have you got coming up? Because I bet COVID's really put a dampener on things, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, COVID's sort of like put the blockers on any theatrical work. So I've just written a radio play actually for for BBC Radio. So I've written that, and I'm starting work on a book now. And me and Nicky Altman, we're going to start working on something later this year as well. So me and Nicky are back at it as well. You know, so Nicky's funny enough, some of the stuff I put in me One Night in Istanbul, one night in May poem. You know, some of the stuff that Nicky was telling me about. You know, he described that walking up to the ground as like biblical. It's like something of the Bible. You know what I mean? So I put that in this little piece that I wrote about Istanbul. But as I say, it used to go down a storm on the after dinner scene. So yeah, I don't do it these days. I don't do the poetry anymore.
You're gonna do it for us to finish off today, though, aren't you? For us?
Yeah, I'll do it now. But,
okay. Before you do, how do we get more information about you, Dave? You got a website?
No, it's just on Twitter at Dave Kirby.
At Dave Kirby. Justin, where can we get hold of you? You're on Twitter?
Actually, no, I must get with the program. I still have a Hotmail account. I'm a bit of a Luddite, but
okay. So we just got to ask Jeeves, do we?
Right, exactly.
All right. Okay, thanks, everybody. We're going to finish with Dave Kirby. Quickly, I'll say...
two lads.
Yeah, and thanks to Paul, and for the Wine for My Men banner and on all that too, and also to Woody for coming on briefly. Andrew Nixie says, great listening to all the stories, thanks all. Jamie Clark says, great stories, guys, thanks. And we'll leave you in the capable hands of Dave Kirby.
Cheers, guys, thanks. This called One Night in May. Have you ever had one of those miserable days when everything gets you down? The alarm goes off, you go to work, and you're sort of just moping around. You feel like part of the system. It's the same thing every day. Well, they're the times that I close my eyes and think of one night in May. Most days, I'm stuck on building sites with bricks and rubble everywhere. But the sound of the cement mixer always fades to the noise from Taksim Square. Then all of a sudden, a smile appears and the emptiness feels full. It's a winter's day in Liverpool, but I'm in Istanbul. I see the flags and the banners. I hear the buzz and the sound, the booze, the buses, the taxis, that pilgrimage up to the ground. It was like a scene from the Bible, an amazing red crusade, as thousands of Scousers came over the hills to the place where dreams are made. but those dreams became illusions, and glory seemed far away. 3 goals down, game over, according to Andy Gray. And then it started. That amazing song. It engulfed the entire ground. I've heard Walk On sang a million times, but that night was much more profound. It was beautiful. It was sacred. I'll remember it till the day I die, because it wasn't just us that sang that night. It was the spirits of Copites gone by. From that moment on, it was ecstasy. Football played from the soul. I was bouncing all over some fat fella when Xavi got that third goal. And when Shevchenko missed the pen, that was it. We both hit the deck. I don't know what the fuck we got up to, but I had a love bite on my neck. And I was made up for all the young scousers. I grabbed one and held him tight. I said, now you know how it feels, lad. You all know what it's like. Honest, my head was spinning. My emotions were all over the place. I was smiling as Stevie lifted the cup with tears streaming down my face. I was thinking of me dad. I could hear his voice. It seemed to rise up through the tears. Then I thought of that day at Hillsborough, and I know that he was somewhere near. The greatest ever comeback, the greatest show on earth, the mother of all finals that night at the Atatürk. To Rafa and Stevie and Jamie and the lads, we owe our eternal thanks, because the cup is ours forever now. We can sing 6 times to the Manx. Yeah, Istanbul's the place I go when I'm stuck on building sites. It helps me escape from the dull routine and the boredom of everyday life. So if ever you're feeling shocker, I'll tell you how to get through the day. Just close your eyes and think of one night in May. Thanks, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Dave.
Thanks
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll never walk alone.